this is not over, not by a long stretch. And when I say this, I mean Champions League football, as I'll probably put in the title of the video somewhere. Now, I can't believe that we've got 58 points. West Ham, last season, we weren't just relegation candidates. We were so bad, we had to sack our manager, bring another one in, a firefighting manager, the manager that previously saved us from relegation, to save us from relegation again. I mean, you could argue that without the additions of Jarrod Bowen and Thomas Souček last season, we wouldn't have survived. But such was our form after lockdown, the first lockdown. There's so many lockdowns. We rallied. We rallied and we survived in the league. So to have 58 points now is, I find it quite hard to get my head around. It's unfathomable. Is that a word? I think it's a word. It is now. If you look at it as well, there's 4 games remaining. 4 games remaining. We are still in with a shout of Champions League football. This is not something that's fallen away. It's in our hands. Well, actually, it's not in our hands. But in many respects, because if everybody wins all their games at the top, then we don't. But they can't, because Chelsea play Leicester and things like that. Leicester have got a really tough last 3 games. In fact, I would suggest the pressure is on Leicester to win their next game, because the last 3 are just so tough. And you've got a resurgent Tottenham now. Obviously, we've gone above Tottenham after beating Burnley, and we beat Burnley really, really well. We'll look back at points during the season, the Newcastle doing a double over us, things like that, and think wish we'd have done things differently. And even just the way the injuries have hampered our charge at the end. But I thought we'd, to coin a phrase, fade and die by now. But we're still up there, and the players are starting to come back. What a performance from Antonio. It was... He doesn't look like a player that had an injury, that had just come back from injury, that had a few games out. There was a point quite near the end when the ball was played down the left wing, and there was a contest. I think it might have been with Antonio and Tarkowski. Antonio was at the full sprint. I thought, well, hold on, this is late in the game. You're sort of expecting him to pull up with a hamstring injury or something like that. But he was rapid, he was fast, and he looked fit. And I'm in no doubt that he made the difference to us in that game against Burnley. If he can stay fit for the remainder of the season, I'm quite confident that we can win the rest of the games. Which is... That would almost, it would seem to be unprecedented. West Ham have got to win their next 4 games. 4 games in a row. Very un-West Ham-like. If we do it, I think we get Champions League football. I really do. We require a slip-up from Chelsea. We require a slip-up and a bit from Leicester. There's ifs and there's buts. Liverpool, of course, there are. But even then, they're a game behind us. But even then, they can't overhaul us on points. Tottenham have played the same amount. So if we win all of ours, those stay behind us. Do the others slip up? Quite possibly. We've got to put ourselves in with a shout of it. And the players seem confident. And the players seem motivated. And it feels as if we're over that stumbling block of losing all the players. I wouldn't be surprised if for the next game against Everton, which is a humdinger, Everton must be looking at it now and thinking, oh, OK, we are out of Champions League. But Everton will still want European football of some flavour. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ogbonna's back. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if Declan Rice is back. And if Masuaku's back again, then you start looking at something resembling our strongest possible team. And I feel that David Moyes played a bit of a masterstroke in this game. Not just tactically, and not just the way he deployed those attacking players in the way that he did, but in the way that he handled Michail Antonio's return. I didn't believe him when he said in a press conference that Antonio was close to returning. And I'm not sure anybody believed him. I'm not sure that Sean Dyche believed him. So to see his name an hour before kickoff in the starting lineup, well, it gave me a huge boost. So it must have given all the players a massive one. And I guess the Burnley defenders must have been thinking, we'd rather not. They'd rather play against Bowen. No offence to Bowen, when he came on the pitch, he made an impact. He really did. But actually, as a striker, they would have been more comfortable playing against Bowen. Antonio's a pain in the backside. And so it proved with 2 goals. And was a constant menace throughout. Could, maybe should, have scored 3 or 4 goals. Probably should have got an assist by squaring the ball to Ben Rama earlier than he did. He did attempt it, but it was a little bit too late by that point. But I feel he made the difference. If we had have had, I know this is ifs and buts, if we had had Michail Antonio fit all season, we didn't have those. It's not just us missing him now. There was a little lull, if you remember, when Haller came in. And yes, Haller scored a couple of goals, but we weren't the same. We weren't as dynamic. We need the high energy player, the one that can do what he does, not just poach goals, but also drift wide, stretch defence with his pace and his strength. And I'm pretty sure that David Moyes is going to be on the lookout for somebody like that to do the same. We'd have top 4 wrapped up by now. In fact, I think had we've had Antonio in those games, I think it would have, probably worth another 9 or 10 points to us. If we did, we'd be actually up there contesting second position. Anyway, that doesn't matter. He's back now. Can he stay fit for the remaining 4 games? There's no point me saying I think so. I hope so. If he does, we've got a chance. Now, that's really difficult, looking at it now, for David Moyes to change that team. Well, in the videos over the next couple of days, we've got something to talk about, because of content. We'll have a little look at the individual players and the roles that they've played within that. But it's just difficult. Okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say Declan Rice isn't available for the Everton game. I hope he is. He was kind enough to join us on our review if you watched it. He's a massive player for us. Really, he's the captain. Obviously, Noble's captain, you know what I mean. He's been the captain for most of the games this season. Declan Rice is fit, he comes back into the team. But bearing in mind, Noble has picked up a knock. And I love the way that David Moyes responded to that news that Mark Noble was injured. He shuffled the pack and he did it to great effect and great success. But if for the Everton game, Mark Noble is unavailable and Declan Rice unavailable, clearly you would expect David Moyes to play the same team. But here's a curveball for you. What about if Mark Noble is available for the next game, but Declan Rice isn't? Will David Moyes for the Everton game drop Manuel Lanzini or Pablo Fornals? I don't think he will. I guess the question is, would he drop Said Ben Rama, then play one of those other 2 in a more attacking role, and then play Noble in the team? I'm still not sure. Ben Rama was so good. He was so effective. And as were the others. Ben Rama, Fornals, Lanzini and Lingard, they're good players. Good players, they're touch players, 1-2s, triangles. Really enjoyed playing with each other. And you add Cresswell into the mix as another technical player that comes from the defence and joins in. It was really good. And I thought it was a wonderful thing to see, because it would have been so easy for David Moyes to put that team out. And it was a team of necessity, because Noble wasn't there. To put that team out, which was packed with attacking players, and actually tell them to defend and sit tight and 2 banks of, well, actually a bank of 4 and a bank of 5 or whatever the case may be. But he didn't. I actually thought he was pragmatic. And the funny thing is, with pragmatism can often be seen as a conservative trait. But actually, the pragmatic decision in this one was, well, actually, all I've got is attacking players, so we might as well attack. And we did, and attack was the best form of defence in this instance. Because if you look where the ball was when the final whistle got blown, it was down their ends, because we'd taken the ball into the corner. Why? Because we'd just had a counter-attack. We had the ball down there. And I just thought overall it was a really good strategy. It was a really good team selection. The players executed it perfectly. But it was also a statement. And it was a statement that said, we can go and we can get Champions League football. We can do this. It wasn't a team that was put out there to say, well, whatever, we'll keep it tight, we'll get a point, a few more points this season, we're probably getting Europa League. No, this was, we're still in it. And it may, following defeats to Newcastle and Chelsea, it may have felt that maybe we were out of it. But that puts pressure on them. Chelsea and Leicester would not have wanted to see us win today. They'd wanted us out of it. Liverpool wouldn't have wanted to. Tottenham clearly wouldn't have wanted to because we've gone above them. They'd all been looking at us thinking, well, surely West Ham have got a drop off. It's West Ham. West Ham can't be there above Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal. Well, we are. And we're not there after 4 games. It's 34 games. We're above them after most of the season. Chelsea have got their eyes on other things as well. I'm not saying they don't want Champions League football. Clearly they do. Clearly they're motivated. Clearly they've got good players. Clearly they're a very good team. Who I couldn't say otherwise. They've just beaten us. But they've got other competitions to worry about as well. They got a couple of tough games coming up. Leicester have got 3 tough games coming up. In many respects, the fixture schedule is tougher for us. I thought this was going to be a tough game. I know in the preview I predicted a win. I thought this was going to be tough. I thought Brighton was going to be tough. I'm not saying Brighton won't be tough. I even get a little bit of West Hamitis and a bit of a squeaky bum. Looking at West Brom, it's Sam Allardyce, it's West Brom. But that's just the natural pessimist that I think is inside all of us at West Ham. But actually, I would imagine the other teams that are looking at us are probably looking at our running thinking, West Ham have got a pretty easy running. Now, with the team that's missing Antonio, that's missing Declan Rice, missing Cresswell, missing Ogbonna, so on and so forth, you think, okay, that maybe not such a good running. But if we, for the last 4 games, pretty much get our first team 11 out, our first choice 11, we can beat those teams. So it's still on. It's still on. I cannot believe that we're going into game week 35 within 3 points of the top 4. This is an unprecedented season. This really is. There's teams like Aston Villa, teams like Leeds who have had good seasons, but realistically, their season is over. I guess, is it? Maybe they can get 7. No, probably they can't. It's still, it's unbelievable. With 4 games remaining, we've still got something to play for, and it ain't at the bottom. It ain't to survive from relegation. It's great. We retain our interest in the Premier League until the last game of the season, regardless, be it Champions League or be it the Europa League, Europa Cup, whatever it's called. But Champions League is still on.